Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Lobby, GameSpot's weekly video game hangout. I'm Mike Mahardy, your host here in San Francisco, California. I'm here with reviews editor Pete Brown.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm all right.
Yeah?
It's my first day back in the office. I've been home sick for a couple days.
Are you still sick? Please
we'll find out.
The hesitation.
I'm not feeling 100%, but I'm good for the show. Callie's also sick.
Yeah, Callie Plaggy. You're sick too?
Yeah. I didn't stay home though.
You're just,
good luck,
you're
Mike.
flanking me with diseases.
You're throwing me under the bus. Oh, I didn't stay home.
I didn't. I was really busy.
One of you was a slacker, and one of you was infecting everyone here at the GameSpot office. You're both
Yeah. I
low
think
on
I'm
my list right now.
I'm the asshole, so
Cool.
No.
I'm the
Putting
bad
words
one.
in our mouths.
No.
We have a cool show coming up. Different format than we usually do, especially in relation to Nioh, the newest game out today. Our review should be up soon. Miguel Concepcion, editor, was cranking through like 85 hours of it or something.
That's what he ended up as. Yeah. And,
I'm almost there. I'm at like 3.
We're
3 more.
Yeah, the review's getting the finishing touches put on it, the text and the video.
Cool.
So it should be soon.
Yeah, so we're going to switch up how we talk about reviews kind of going forward in the lobby, starting with today, see how we think. Obviously, as always, we have the YouTube and Twitch chats right here in front of us. You are essentially just right on the other side of the table from me. Yes, I do feel... that was Nick Margarita. First person I call out is Nick Margarita. He's on Twitch chat. But yeah, we do have a few housekeeping things to get through before I get to our segments. First off, we have a giveaway, as always. We're trying to do one a week. We have the Hitman Collector's Edition.
Hit me.
The full season, now that season 1 came out last year. Can you hold this? There's no one camera on me. This is the contents of it are
very light.
What is it? There's a statue. Yeah, they're not in this. So we do have one copy for each platform: PS4, Xbox One, PC. We have obviously the statue, like this right here. There's a statue of this with Agent 47 sitting on it. There is an art book. There is a red tie with a clip, the Hitman logo clip. Is there a side that shows all this stuff?
You betcha, Mike.
Oh, this makes it way easier. The art book, as per usual, full game download, full season. So pretty much right now, GameSpot's going to be tweeting about this. And then if you follow GameSpot and retweet, nice.
Thank you.
Talent.
You can, we'll pick you later on the week. Also, let us know which platform you want it for, because like I said, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. And there, if you're in the Twitch chat, then you can see that. Shiva just posted it, the Twitter status. So, yeah, follow us, retweet that, and hopefully you win that later in the week. And I'll get back to this at the end of the show as a reminder.
Do I have to hold this up the whole time?
Yes.
God damn it.
No, I'll take it.
Okay, thank God.
So, with that out of the way, I do have a few more smaller news stories I want to get through.
Why are you looking at me?
Because I sometimes pick these just to get things riled up. Yeah, exactly. First off, I just thought this one was funny. Kojima, I saw a news story on GameSpot on Kojima and why he won't make horror games anymore. And I'm expecting this really artistic, in-depth, creative answer. But no, I get scared very easily, is what he said.
I hadn't read it, but that was my hunch.
He said, I get scared easily. He told IGN 'cause that's the practical reason for why he doesn't want to. And then he also said, actually, this is true of Alfred Hitchcock as well as Steven Spielberg because they scare easily, because I scare easily. It's actually easy for us to make something that is scary because we understand what is scary.
His peers.
His contemporaries.
Yeah.
Because he competes with them. Alfred Hitchcock, if you don't know, directed Transformers. And Steven Spielberg did Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, one of my favorites.
You're thinking of E.T.
Yes. So there's that. Start off with an easy one. Mm-hmm. I also saw... more comedy. Conan, the dev behind Conan Exiles, explains its dong... I think that's what I wrote down. Okay. Conan Exiles explains why the game has genital physics and an endowment slider. I wrote down dong physics in my notes.
Well, it's really just one set of genitalia that has physics.
But it's not just dong physics because you can enhance and decrease the size of the female character's breasts as well.
But
and that was the reasoning.
I think of genitalia, I think of...
Me too.
Well, yeah, because breasts aren't genitalia.
Right.
But I believe the quote was equality and all that.
Yes.
Was the
here we go. So the developer, was it Funcom? And a Reddit AMA recently that Kotaku picked this up and reported on it. Funcom expanded on the topic, saying it was decided early on that nudity would be a part of the game because it fits with the lore and the setting. As for the endowment slider, which if you can't figure out what those words imply, you can slide your endowment.
Like how much money I have in my bank account?
Yes. The slider was a natural evolution of that, Funcom said, especially seeing we had a similar slider for breasts, equality and all that.
It's just very erudite.
Mm-hmm.
They know what sells.
Joey Yee, one of our gameplay producers here, has a feature up that essentially shows off these features.
His wang.
Not his, but his character.
Well, his avatar's wang.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cross that off the list.
True
And
art.
I got one. Before I get into something a little more serious, I have one that I'm sure Pete will like. This popped up on NeoGAF the other day. Originally posted by eSmith08734. A fairly young kid flew to New York City to be the first person in the world to obtain a Nintendo Switch on March 3rd. I don't really understand how he's going to do this, but he plans on waiting at the store for a month. I think he dropped out of school to pursue being a YouTuber. Pretty insane that he's doing this. He posts daily vlogs, I think, etc. So apparently he rented an Airbnb nearby because you can't just camp out in line this early on.
Okay.
So he is going to lock down the first spot every day until March 3rd.
Okay.
When the Switch releases. Pete was, I guess, I don't think I was in the office at the time, but apparently, Pete, you just burst into a rant the other day about this.
It was
Callie's just right across from him.
beautiful. It was beautiful. It was like 10 minutes, and I walked away to get water, and I came back, and he was still talking about it. It was awesome.
I am horribly out of touch. I'm the first person to admit that. Like, I don't get what is popular these days. If being the first person to own a console is the thing that you're going to stake like your future on by dropping out of school.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know.
Well, you were also saying that seems to be a lot of what you don't like about the perception of the video game industry.
There's that too. Yeah, I think, I don't know. I don't want to get that too into it, but yeah, I think it's really dumb. I'm just going to leave it at that. I think it's a stupid thing he's doing, and it's not worth the time or any of the energy that he's putting into it.
Really brief side note before the slider goes past in our chat. Hector Montemare said this is the first time he's tuning into the lobby on the live stream, and the fire alarm went off at school. So hopefully everyone's all right. That's probably just his punishment for watching the lobby during class.
True.
No, just kidding. If you're in school, don't pay attention to your teacher. Watch us. I'm kidding. Kelly, you were saying about this.
I'm not going to even touch that one. Oh, it was really good because Pete was so upset about the dropping out of school part, which I think that's the part that irritated me the most.
Yeah.
Because stay in school. In all seriousness, don't drop out of school to be a YouTuber. You have spare time. You're a student.
I mean, we just laughed about dong physics, so I'm going to contradict myself here, but it's such a juvenile move to like try to become famous for being the first person to buy a consumer product. Is that what we've become as an audience, as people who like video games a lot? I guess people like video games for different reasons. Some people like it because it makes them popular.
Yeah.
But I don't get it. And I'll leave it at that.
Another one that popped up on Kotaku as well. Jason Schreier, a reporter over there, a writer, editor, was saying they've been talking to GameStop recently. I think for his initial story, he talked to 20 employees. So there's the thing called GameStop's Circle of Life. Essentially, it sounds complicated, but then the implications of it become pretty obvious. So if you work at GameStop, you're kind of encouraged to push pre-owned content when possible, and they do this by setting a quota. For pre-owned games and for any pre-owned content, that quota is a percentage of total sales in dollar amounts. So while prescription cards, if you want to get medicine at GameStop, you need a prescription card. No, for subscription cards, you need to, that's a percentage that they need to sell based on a total number of transactions. So any transaction they do, if they can get a percentage of those that they give a subscription card to the GameStop rewards program, that's easier. But like I was saying, the pre-owned content quota is a percentage of total sales. So what Kotaku or Jason Schreier discovered was that a lot of employees were saying from either their managers or just because of this system, they were feeling forced and fearful for their jobs if they didn't push pre-owned content to the point that sometimes people would come into the store and ask for like a new Wii U, and they would have them in back, but the employee, knowing that not only would buying that Wii U raise the dollar amount that they had to hit a percentage of with pre-owned, they wouldn't be selling a pre-owned. They would have to sell even more pre-owned as the week or the month went by. So they would say, no, but we have a refurbished one, so that would raise the percentage and keep the dollar amount down they needed to meet. So a lot of employees saying they were either being encouraged or feeling forced to lie to customers saying, no, we don't have new stuff. You need to buy our pre-owned that just came in the other day.
Yeah. And it's hard for those people to feel like they have a choice. Honestly, I've worked plenty of retail jobs, and you get these sort of things from on high that you're told to do, and you can't. What are you going to do? You can't argue with it.
Yeah.
If you don't meet those sales, they'll let you go.
Yeah, they did a follow-up saying, I think Forbes also talked to a few people, not as many as Kotaku, saying it might have been a little bit exaggerated of how fearful they were, but Yeah, so they may be overblown was the Forbes headline. Reports of GameStop's terrible Circle of Life program may be overblown. We're looking at it here. They were saying that it was just kind of a case-by-case basis, which I get that. Some managers might be a little more, dictatorial in their approach, but that system itself does not leave a lot of wiggle room in terms of what you're trying to sell people. It's not a secret that GameStop lives and dies by its pre-owned content. It's just a cycle that keeps coming into the store. You trade in old games for new ones, and then those new ones come back in as used games to be sold at a higher markup. Not higher than $60, but higher than their value. And that's kind of shitty, especially if you are working GameStop. I don't think I've heard about good practices at GameStop before, so this doesn't completely surprise me.
They're not known for being nice or good.
This doesn't surprise me, but it still is shitty to hear how that works, and I'm sure, hopefully these reports will make them reconsider. If it gets big, if Forbes is reporting on it, then maybe it's, who knows?
Hopefully. I hope nobody gets, there's no retaliation against employees also. It doesn't continue to negatively affect employees.
Yeah. And then, Eric Green in the YouTube chat was asking if the company has the right to fire their employees for not meeting these quotas. I think that was part of it, right?
Yeah,
that was rule. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
They were reserving the right to actually do that if they didn't meet this kind of, it's not an arbitrary quota because there are rules about it, but it is.
You're not doing what we asked you to do.
Yeah.
Sorry. Bye.
I will just keep paying for stuff through Amazon.
Yeah.
It's easy, and I don't think they have a practice like that, so hopefully they don't. All right, that's the end of our newsreel. So leave us your thoughts in the chat. I'll try to catch up while we get into the news segments, whether you're on YouTube or Twitch. Again, we have the chat right here, and we are welcoming you to participate. The Nioh review, we're getting to that stuff at the end of the show, Tony on YouTube, so fear not, because I really like that game. I want to talk about it. First off, though, the Ghost Recon Wildlands closed beta was last week. Or open. Closed. For Honor open beta. What the fuck is going on?
Wow.
Ghost Recon Wildlands closed beta.
Yes.
Was we were playing on PS4 and PC last week in the office and over the weekend.
Yes.
I think it was Friday to Sunday.
We did a stream of it, too.
And if you don't know much about Wildlands yet, it's essentially they're making this open world sandbox in Colombia, and you're essentially trying to take down the drug cartel because there aren't 300 movies and games where you're doing that already. It's fresh. It's newly trodden ground.
Never been there.
Drugs are
But after the takeaway that Jake Decker was playing, and he was the one that kind of raised the idea for this segment. Aaron Sampson was playing. I know Rob tried it out. I couldn't get past the menu. Rob Handler and Jake Decker while they were playing.
Press the X button.
Yeah, it said I was connected, but then there was this overlay saying you can't connect to the servers. But then in the background on the main title screen it said you're connected. But then that would go away, and I would try to play a game and it said you're disconnected. I don't know what it was. We've been having problems with with For Honor Ubisoft connections lately. Something with a
just
weird
within
NAT
the
type.
office.
Yeah,
It's like the NAT
clear.
type or something.
It's like our NAT type, which no idea what CBS is up to, but hopefully they're not watching because I don't want to be fired.
They're making that show about the nerds. I forget what it's called.
Which one?
The show about the nerds.
The show about the nerds.
Oh, Big Bang.
Big Bang.
Nice. I actually didn't know what you were talking about. I don't know what CBS owns.
You were kidding, right?
What?
You didn't forget the name of that
No,
show.
I forgot the name.
That was not one of my jokes. I legitimately did not know.
Oh my God.
Anyway, after playing that, people said, it's kind of a common phrase as new sequels come out and these franchises start evolving and adapting and kind of trying to figure out what audiences want and what they're going to pay for, more specifically. It feels more like people are saying this seems like they're going for a GTA thing with Ghost Recons. I made the comparison watching Jake play, scoping out an area, kind of sneaking in. I made the comparison to Metal Gear Solid 5, a game which you and I both really like. Callie, you were saying you haven't played too much of it yet?
No.
Okay. It's essentially just the whole loop of the stealth in an open world, right? And you don't have to be stealthy in this. The big thing they push, I think it was an E3 reveal 2 years ago, 2015. I believe Ubisoft is saying, you can. They showed the same gameplay trailer twice, just one they going in guns blazing, one being stealthy.
This looks almost exactly like the first mission in Metal Gear Solid 5. Like the location of the first mission.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it essentially, people are saying it doesn't feel like a Ghost Recon game, which
What's in the name?
Right. I don't always like Resident Evil 7 doesn't feel like a Resident Evil game, but I think
What?
It does. Well, sorry. At first glance, it does not, but then you start playing and you see the roots of it.
Gotcha.
People are saying they don't see any Tom Clancy in this a lot, aside from the aesthetic, the military aesthetic, right?
That's not Tom Clancy? I thought you played as Tom Clancy.
No. That's Ding Chavez, the main character from the old Rogue Rainbow Six. It's not Ding Chavez.
Ding?
That's Willem Dafoe.
Wait, Ding?
Have you seen the movies? Read the books? I used to be a huge Tom Clancy nerd. That's why I wanted to do this segment.
Man, you are
'Cause name
gripping that microphone in anticipation of something. I don't know what.
What? No, I'm not.
Wait,
Look at you.
can we talk about the name Ding really
Yeah.
quickly?
It's Ding Chavez. Look up. I'm not kidding. Have you guys seen Clear and Present Danger, Patriot Games, all the Tom Clancy stuff?
Harrison Ford stuff.
Yes. And then
Yes.
one of the main recruits for Rainbow Six is Ding Chavez.
Ding.
Look it up. You can play it. I told
I
Jean-Luc
believe
to
you.
have.
I just like making fun of it.
I told Jean-Luc, hopefully he has it ready. I have to get like Rainbow Six Rogue Spear footage ready. We're gonna get into the argument of this segment soon, but I want to like show you
Ding.
what I like about. Stop that. What I like about like Tom Clancy stuff. Rogue Spear is one of my favorite games, and I think that when you lose you can play this in third person too, which is what I always did. It looks cooler. I wish that was Ding Chavez at the bottom. That's not. That is
Ding.
Norvikov. I don't know.
This is not Novikov.
Vladimir Nabokov, the author. he's in Spetsnaz now. No, it's essentially Wildlands. Like Jake Decker was just chiming in the Twitch chat. It feels like they're going for more of a open world sandbox thing, whereas like the Division was going for more of the RPG loot grind Destiny kind of game, and in some ways, and. Then you have Rainbow Six Siege, which started off as this tactical team shooter, but now as they introduce the updates, Aaron Sampson plays it a lot. He's been saying it's becoming less and less tactical, and it's falling more into that hero shooter category almost, which like Overwatch, Battleborn,
Class-based shooter. Please.
class-based shooter.
Aw,
You and your
Battleborn.
terminology.
Every time I hear the word Battleborn, I get sad.
I'll throw Battleborn into the conversation anytime. I think that game's fun, but. I wanted to talk to you guys about whether you think Tom Clancy games are losing their identity. Because I'm not always one of those people who says like, oh, this doesn't feel like a Zelda game or this doesn't feel like a Metroid game. But in this case, I don't want Tom Clancy to just become this homogenous thing that blends in with all the other franchises, because Tom Clancy games to me were always there were the tactical things to it. When they first showed off the trailer for Rainbow Six Patriots, when you had to make those decisions like, do I throw this civilian off the bridge to let the bomb blow him up but also not hurt like 500 more people, like that was cool because that was the the fighting in the shadows when no one really knows you're there, kind of there's no glory, it's just these preemptive military strikes. Rainbow Six Vegas, I love those two games. They're the tactical first person shooters, but
so what does this retain that does resemble Tom Clancy?
that's what everybody's saying. With Wildlands, it seems like there's even less Tom Clancy than the Division had, which the Division didn't have much to begin with, just the aesthetic. So it's like Tom Clancy is just this
I forgot that was a Tom Clancy game.
Yeah, it's
Me
like
too,
the paint
actually.
is just it's like a paint now.
Yeah.
Well, I can understand. I think that sometimes a franchise deviating from its roots can be a good thing. I also think like when you are a fan of something that's known for, like Tom Clancy being known for tactical elements, having it shift so far away from that when there are other options for similar games that are doing the same things it's trying to do, it's like, okay, well, why did I bother buying this game if I can play, Black Ops 3 and pick like a specialist and it's basically like you have a sort of hero thing going on. Like, why do I need another game like this? I went to Tom Clancy for tactical stuff. And now I don't have that. So I can understand the frustration.
Yeah, totally. It's the wanting to make money in the short term based on these trends, right? And then, but in the long term, what are you sacrificing?
Maybe it's what Thomas wants. Can I call him Thomas?
Sure. Okay. I think it usually you
It's
start
a bit
with
informal.
You start with the formal thing, and then when you get familiar, you call him Tom.
Yeah.
Clancy-san.
Call him. Okay. So my boy T's games right now have been kind of like losing what I love about them. And yeah, short term, they're kind of maybe cashing in is really just being reductive and being kind of mean to Ubisoft. But I feel like they're cashing in on the Destiny loot grind, MMORPG cooperative shooter experience. Like I said, Rainbow Six Siege, I think, is catering more to that class-based shooter structure. I think...
There's a history here you don't know about, Kelly.
I'm scared.
And then Eric Green, that brings up a very good point in YouTube. Mike should ask himself if the marketing of applying the Tom Clancy name works in making him buy a game he may not otherwise have bought. Very, very good point, because if The Division was not a Tom Clancy game, I still would have tried it, and I think I would have had less expectations, whereas I don't think I would care about Wildlands if it wasn't a Tom Clancy game. So there's a two-sided coin, right?
Is it maybe more the themes and the setting that kind of makes you feel like there's a stronger connection this time around to something Tom Clancy would be a part of, but then the mechanics fall short?
With Wildlands?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah, because that's the original, Tom Clancy stuff was about the drug cartel in South America. And that's why I was attached to it. But like Eric Green mentioned, I don't think I would care about Wildlands because it looks like it looks like they're going for a dumbed down vanilla kind of Metal Gear Solid 5 experience.
Well, we don't know if it's dumbed down.
We don't, but from what everybody's playing, from what I played, it didn't feel great. But that was a beta.
That's a beta. It doesn't.
True. Yeah. Obviously, this is all based on my beta experience, but I didn't get like the last Ghost Recon was Future Soldier, and I actually really liked that. It wasn't the best one, but I think the campaign was really good. I think it emphasized this kind of modern combat, this like preemptive military strikes with drones, with these like with robots and whatnot. But also, it kind of had some cool things to say about that as it went through about like the dehumanization of war and whatnot.
Sure,
but I still liked it because it felt like a Tom Clancy game. And like I said, this is weird for me because I usually am not one of those people who says like, oh, this doesn't feel like a Zelda game. Why are they doing this? Like, they're sacrificing what made it great to begin with. In this case, I feel like they're picking apart one specific franchise on Ubisoft's part and just kind of exploding it out to meet all these different trends. And that's why I'm kind of worried because I actually played more of The Division recently. It's been like 6 episodes of the lobby where I've said I wanted to get back into playing, and I did. And I like the survive mode. I think that actually fits into The Division well. For those who don't know, that's where you're actually going through this disease-infected, almost post-apocalyptic Manhattan, and trying to survive through the cold and through your thirst and hunger. But Wildlands, from what I've seen and from what I've heard and from the brief time I've played in the beta, again, it did not feel like I was playing this tactical game at all, and that's what I was looking for with it. Like a tactical shooter in a sandbox. I mean, you're not going to be... I don't think a game's going to come along anytime soon that's better than Metal Gear Solid 5 at doing that.
Yeah.
And I don't dislike the fact that they're going for that, but it feels like it's missing the mark now. The co-op side of it makes it a little more enticing. I know Jake Decker and Aaron Sampson and Rob Handler were having much more fun playing in co-op.
Nothing
and
like
having
a tutorial in the middle of making
here's how to sit on a helicopter. So I'll probably play this when it comes out. But like Eric Green had mentioned, would I be as interested if it wasn't a Tom Clancy game? No. But I would have been more interested in The Division, I think, if it was just its own thing and I wasn't expecting it to be a Tom Clancy game. Sorry, correction. I would have enjoyed it more if I wasn't trying. I didn't think it was a Tom Clancy game. So I was just worried that in the long term, what does it even mean to be a Tom Clancy game anymore? Like 5 years down the road, if all of these different properties, Ghost Recon,
I think
The
we're already
Division's
there.
brand new.
I think it's already it's been diluted.
And I wish like Rainbow Six stuck to its roots. People in the chat are saying it's still pretty tactical, and I agree. But I think and Aaron Sampson has dissected the game a lot. He's a video producer here. He was saying that just like a lot of the updates they're doing are making it more of just a regular shooter, still tactical, much more tactical than like Overwatch or something of that ilk. But now it's just, I feel like it's kind of being this vanilla tactical shooter rather than this really hardcore. I hate using that phrase because it sounds like I'm alienating and marginalizing people that just want these shooters. But I feel like Tom Clancy in the long run, and like you said, maybe we're already there and Tom Clancy games don't mean what they used to be.
I'm sad now.
Don't feel bad for Mike.
Yeah. But then there's these rays of hope, like Resident Evil 7. I know I just earlier used that example. That was just me thinking out loud because Resident Evil 6 was the one where like, what the fuck is this? Resident Evil 7 is a return to the roots, which we keep saying, but it makes sense. Yeah,
no, I also
but it's also
agreed with
adapted
that.
for modern palettes, and that's Resident Evil 7. I have something else going up soonish about why I think Resident Evil 7 is actually a really fucking important game because one of Japan's biggest developers and one of the like leading franchises, at least, well, maybe not in recent years, but Resident Evil itself, the fact that they could kind of take a risk and go back to survival horror is kind of proof that maybe people should do this. So maybe, like obviously this is a stretch, but maybe Ubisoft needs to look at Resident Evil 7 and say, how can we take what made Tom Clancy games great to begin with and adapt it in our own way rather than follow Destiny or follow...
Or how can they take the
Solid
Tom
5.
Clancy name and break out the things that people like and make them their own franchise?
Exactly. Make another new IP like The Division, but in its own kind of game. Not a Destiny clone. Yeah. Survival mode, I guess. If you're going to play a Division, play survival mode. Yeah, the next Splinter Cell game would be... Blacklist. Speaking of that, Splinter Cell Blacklist. Thank you, Billy Combe, for bringing up Splinter Cell. I'm sure other people did. I just didn't see the chat. Splinter Cell Blacklist, I really actually thought did this well, but that was what, 2012? Blacklist, you guys remember? Someone in the chat, can you tell me what year Splinter Cell Blacklist was? I'm forgetting right now. It was like at least 4 years ago. I think they did a great job because you have those 3 trees you can go down where you can play the traditional Splinter Cell way. It was a very good stealth game if you want to, but then they had these side quests where you're going and this mission is very much stealth. Don't even get seen. If these missions, you will immediately fail if you're seen.
Yeah.
Kind of like a Dishonored, like completely non-lethal run or anything. And then there's this one tree where it's assault, and it felt good for a third-person shooter. It didn't feel like Splinter Cell, but it was still an option. And then like the last boss fight in that game is bullshit. I love everything about this game except for that last boss fight. Blacklist, I think, is an example of what Tom Clancy games need to be. It took what made Splinter Cell great to begin with, and it didn't sacrifice that, but it also added on to it, and I think adapted it from modern palettes, and I really liked it.
Yep.
I don't know. Did you play Blacklist?
No, but I mean, just from you describing it, I think that's a really smart way to adapt something for both like returning players and introducing it to new people is like giving options. I think that's smart. It's hard to execute sometimes, but
Sure, and then they have like you kind of just saw like you mentioned Black Ops 2 and 3 or sorry, Black Ops
Black Ops 3 with the specialists. Yeah.
Black Ops also has that hub in
Blacklist?
the campaign. No, Black Ops has that hub in the campaign. That's what Call of Duty games started doing because Infinite Warfare had it as well, where that's where all the RPG mechanics are tied into.
Oh, where you like upgrade your weapons and
Blacklist
stuff.
did that really well, and I think that was a very modern trope at the time, and it still is, I guess. But you go back between missions to pick, that old school map, which Nioh actually has, like a Mario map. You're picking. I'm comparing Splinter Cell to Mario. You're picking like which parts of the Mushroom Kingdom you want to infiltrate and kill. But anyway,
Mario Odyssey coming.
Splinter Cell Blacklist. If you haven't played it, I recommend it. Okay. I think we've talked enough about how worried I am about Tom Clancy.
Did you get it out of your
games.
system?
I think so. Did you get that YouTube kid out of your system?
Yeah, last week.
Callie, what do you want to vent
I
about?
secretly still hate it.
I come back to me on that. I'm angry about so much anger.
All right. For those just joining, we are going to get into Nioh and Nintendo Switch. So we will get to those. We have one more segment. We have a bit of an odd segment for lobby stuff, but I'm excited to show it. First off, if you have any thoughts, I see Mr. Rochinator. Siege is still extremely tactical. The more operators they add, the more tactical it becomes. I totally agree. I think they're still going for the hero class-based shooter, but I appreciate the fact that it's still much more tactical than like Overwatch or Battleborn or what other class-based shooters came out last year.
You're trying so hard not to say hero shooter. I love it.
Yeah, but also when Titanfall 2 had like class-based shooter things like with the Titans. They went more to that. Hero shooter, because Titan used to be a class-based shooter, and then they made it into a hero shooter with these superpowered Titans. One has like flame powers.
What are their perks like, Mike? What kind of perks?
Let me describe this. An entity that shoots flames.
Sure.
And mainly has powers around flames, or powers around lasers, or powers around missiles. What would you call those? Like someone with superpowers that, does good deeds. What would you call that, Peter Brown?
Now, see, I would look and try to figure out the roles that they fill in a general sense, and then apply that to a class. Wouldn't get hung up on superficial details like fire.
Okay. People in the chat, let me know your thoughts about Tom Clancy. I'll try to keep up, but also tweet at me, Mike Mahardy, Peter Brown, Callie Plagge, for your thoughts.
Yes.
Next segment, I'm going to intro it a little bit weird. So people who watch the lobby often or just are at GameSpot in general often will know Rob Handlery. But also you probably noticed, in the past year or so, 2 years, we've been branching into entertainment, movies, TV, things that cross over with the games audience because, as people here, and anime, Callie's leading that charge now. As people who enjoy video games here, we also, that's not all we do in our free time. That's not all we like to cover at work. We cover movies, TV, anime, and Buddy over here, he's in charge of our GameSpot Universe team, which essentially that is what GameSpot Universe is. For those of you who don't know, I realize this is redundant for people who've been seeing it a lot. We even cover wrestling. But we did something recently with a feature where people went on and talked about the movies, their favorite movies that are so bad that they're good because of it. And I figured Rob's would be a good one to show because you're all probably familiar with Rob. And I'm going to have Jean-Luc roll that right now, and then we're going to let that go into our next segment. Mm-hmm.
Mine will have to go to Leprechaun 4 in space. Why? Here's one scene that will paint a nice little picture. After the Space Marines blow up the Leprechaun with a grenade, one of the Space Marines takes a piss on the Leprechaun's leg. The Leprechaun then, through magic, travels up the urine stream and into the guy's dingus. Later on, in a hot and steamy scene with another Space Marine, the Leprechaun bursts through the man's penis and says, "Get the
might be a lesson to you, lad. Always wear a prophylactic.
Watch it.
Rob Handlery, thank you. That is one segment from a longer feature that you can go watch. It will be up soon if it's not up now. Pete Brown's in it too. What movies did you talk about?
Mine's not very good, but I talked about
cool.
Dead Alive.
Way
Dead
to
Alive?
sell
Okay.
it.
I just got low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Dead Alive. Have you ever seen it?
No,
No?
but I'll go watch the feature and see why I should see it. Go check it out at GameSpot.com. It should be up soon, if not now, like I said. And yeah, like keep up to date on. We have a lot of good content with like, covering movies. Callie's doing a lot of anime stuff. Like I said,
I'm trying to do an anime thing.
yes. Like
It's
what?
the 35th anniversary of Akira, and I'm trying to make some cool shit happen.
Okay,
I'm like this close to starting the conversation.
I've never seen Akira. Yeah, you have a tattoo from Akira, don't you?
I do.
Nice.
I'm working on a romance anime feature for Valentine's Day. If you're into that sort of thing, it was a lot of fun.
Anime based or video games?
Anime.
Okay.
Yeah, romance anime. for
Who would
Valentine's.
you want to romance from anime, right?
No.
Ash.
Ash from
Pokemon.
He's 10.
Is he really? Yeah. Oh. Well, anyway, the segment I want to talk about is, can games be so bad that they're good? I think there are a few obvious standouts that we want to talk about, but I thought that GameSpot Universe thing, which we wanted to show off, was a good segue into this. The first one I want to get into, the one that I want to bring to the table, is obviously Deadly Premonition, because clearly they were going for it.
But in what regard, though?
B-movie, detective, cheesy dialogue,
Yes.
kind of like
Yeah.
I'm with
Twin
you on
Peaks
all
tone.
of that. I'm with you on all of that. But where I see it incidentally bad is the fact that like the animations are really
The
good.
mechanics aren't that great. There's not many
No, they're-
mechanics to
right.
speak of, but they're not great
Right.
to begin with.
Playing the game is not that good. Watching it is fascinating as hell.
Did you play through the whole thing?
No, I couldn't
play
bring
much of
myself
it?
to finish it.
Yes.
Yeah, you really have to be ready for it. It is Stormprints on YouTube. Deadly Premonition is so good that it's good. It is, tough to get through. Not in the same way. Obviously, a movie you can watch and it's awful, and it's funny because it's awful.
And you're like, cool, it's
And
only
good
90
because
minutes. I'll be done
It's
with
90
this.
minutes. I can sit back, like maybe drink while I'm doing this. I can eat. I could do any number of things with your body.
What?
Like holding a cup and drinking or something. I don't know. I went way too into that.
Mike.
A game, you have agents, you're involved in the shittiness. So it's tough. It's tough. That's why I wanted to, the segment was, can games be so bad that they're
Yeah,
good?
because you have to put a lot of time into a game
Yeah.
to get anything out of it. In a lot of cases, not in all cases, obviously, but like a movie you can watch for an hour and then you're like, I watched The Room and I was drunk and it was so funny.
I think as humans, we have the right to subject ourselves to a waste of time every once in a while. Whether it be a 90-minute movie or however long Deadly Premonition is. But like you said, Callie, games take a lot longer. They involve more agency. You can't just... I forgot how bad some of this game is, but the dialogue is really bad. I encourage you to try it. The director's cut, I think, is the way to go. I think it made a few of the bad parts not as bad to get you through. I mean, look at this.
Oh,
That's some
man.
good animations. It looks like
Oh,
this,
that's
this
beautiful.
sirloin steak is somehow shrinking in that toilet. This theater that's way too tall. I don't know what's going on. I forgot
That's
a
a
lot about this
direct
game.
reference to Twin Peaks, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
A lot
is
of this is.
Twin Peaks.
A lot of this
it's
is, yeah.
Deadly Premonition is Twin Peaks. I've never seen Twin Peaks. Sorry.
oh
Yeah.
it's a tough show to get through. It's very much a soap opera for like 75% of the show.
Is it so bad that it's good?
In time, yes.
Okay.
At points, it is.
I think a lot of people would say that about the second season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It drags.
People are
and drags.
bringing up the whistle. Goob and Bob Jones. What is that? What's the whistle theme? Is that the like main theme of the game? We don't have volume on our TV, so maybe it
Yes,
is.
they said yes.
Okay.
Super
Sure.
Saiyan Moses says yes.
No, I
Super
think he was
Saiyan
answering, is this a
Moses.
Bethesda game, which it's not. Who did that Deadly Premonition?
It was Swery.
Yes, Swery did that, as well as, what else did he do?
Oh, he did D4.
Dark Dreams Don't Die?
Right. He's done.
Is that really
he's done
it?
a bunch of stuff. No. He's done more than that.
No.
I'm just
Is
drawing a
Dark
blank.
Dreams Don't Die what the acronym stands for?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh.
Did you just guess?
I didn't guess. It was somewhere in my subconscious, but I guess that's where it was. Found it.
Proud of you.
Any other examples you guys want to talk about? There are a few. Pete, you probably want to talk about Yakuza.
Yeah, it's weird though because it's like the combat is bad, movement feels bad, the graphics are bad, but it's not a game that's like good because it's bad. but it's a game that I will tolerate its poor qualities because the stuff outside of the shitty stuff is great.
What about
really good?
Like, is Zero good? So you said Yakuza. Did you mean
I meant
specifically
Yakuza
the first
0.
one?
I meant
Yeah.
Yakuza
The
0.
most recent one. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because we watched the stream that Pete and Rob did.
That one line from the underwear guy. What's his name?
Walking erection.
Yeah.
I really just wanted you to.
He got
have to
hold
say
of
that.
Conan's dong slider.
Yeah.
You wish.
What are some other? Here we have footage of Yakuza 0 up right now.
Yeah. What else is bad about this game? You just want me to talk about why this game sucks?
Yeah, go for it. You gave it an 8, right? You really
gave it
liked
an
it,
8, yeah.
and it's been getting like positive reception across the board. If you're really into
Gravy Biscuits is right. This game is awesome. The problems are obvious, though. I mean, you can't deny that this game is deficient in so many ways, but the rest of it's great.
I don't know how you could give it less than an 8 with a character like Walking Erection.
Yeah, someone had mentioned, forgive me, your name passed me by in the Twitch chat. Bring it back up if you can. The Game Informer, our friends over there, they do replay.
Yeah.
And the Facebook like community group for replay is called the Overblood community group, and that's because like Overblood was the first time they did a super replay, which is when they played through an entire game where they died like right at the beginning. And Overblood is one of those things where it's really cheesy. There's a robot, I forget its name, but there's all these inside jokes with the replay community because of Overblood, and they call it like the Super Overblood replay. Hopefully people in the chat, if there are any Game Informer fans, bring that up. But Overblood is definitely, I've never played it, and I only watched a little bit of it because I didn't have the time to go through the whole thing with the Game Informer crew. But apparently that's a seminal part in the replay canon.
I'm waiting for footage here. Do we got footage of this game?
It's, forgive me, I think we might have it, but it's just polygonal, really shitty graphics. Here we go. This is the beginning. You have to find this vest that keeps you warm so you don't die. And
that's how I push blocks.
yeah. And it doesn't, I forget the robot's name, but it becomes this idiotic robot that just pops up at the worst times.
Is it Turd?
But the beginning is the most obtuse puzzle that just doesn't make sense when you're trying to get out of this frozen lab.
It's the voice of Daniel
So this
Reichert.
is Dan Reichert from Giant Bomb talking right now that I'm kind of talking over. I don't know if I'm talking over him or not, honestly. But
robot.
I encourage you to go watch that. It was like a few years ago. Like Dan Reichert's still at Game Informer before he went to Giant Bomb. But it's worth watching. It's funny.
Someone mentions God Hand here. Very similar. I think it's Archangel L3371. Very similar to Yakuza in so many ways. It's
How
just
so?
like, it doesn't play very well. It doesn't look that good.
In that case, Castlevania 64 is really similar too.
No, but it's the humor. It's the sort of just oddball nature of it all that makes it palatable.
Okay.
I saw somebody mention, I'm sorry I did not catch your name, Blinks, that Xbox game. Did you ever play that game?
No.
The time traveling cats? Okay, so I don't think I ever finished it. I don't know if this game is actually bad or if I just remember it that way. Because it's an original Xbox game, but basically you just like stop time and do stuff, but you're like an anthropomorphic cat. And that's the shittiest description I can give.
It's an awesome name. My Horse Prince.
Oh my god! I really wanted to talk about My Horse
Prince
Prince
as well.
So a lot of dating sims are super bad. And My Horse Prince is a mobile game where you date a boy, like an anime boy, who has a horse body, and it's very entertaining and ridiculous, but not a good game by any means. But it's one of those. I hesitate to say like something that you play when you're drunk, but it's one of those things where you're like, you can just giggle about it all night.
It sounds like the next Netflix original.
My Horse Prince.
BoJack Horseman is the head of a horse, body of Will Arnett in animation form.
Yeah, so he's a reverse BoJack Horseman.
What if they just spliced them? Then it'd just be a show about a horse and a
Or
boy.
a man.
Yes, that's not nearly as cool. Oh, here's footage. I see what you're saying now. Ooh, a good-looking horseman at that.
Oh yeah, look at him. He sparkles.
There's nothing normal about you. Why is she smiling when she says this?
Oh yeah, can we talk about the voice acting? Yeah, so there's
Stop
just
smiling.
a
If you're
lot
gonna
of
say
horrible
things. You're more scary than strange. This is a terrifying experience.
So Sweet Direct TV ad.
Wow, that's
I don't-
harsh.
I don't know about you. Shut up. I don't know about you, but that's the kind of date I want is terrifying. Oh my god, does he like
Yes,
it?
we'll take reservations for 3. 1 for his butt.
Does he ever blink? She's blinked a few times.
She's blinking. I don't think he blinks.
See, the fact that he has horse ears leads me to believe that
He's an imposter?
It's just a face on a horse, not a human head on a horse.
It's a human head on a horse. So Gravy Biscuits on Twitch says, Hodful Boyfriend. I would like to refute that. Hodful Boyfriend is a fantastic dating sim.
Is that the pigeon one?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a deconstruction
Yeah.
of the dating sim genre. And if you've played every route like I did, because I don't have a life, then you would know that it's fantastic.
But it has bad qualities.
I mean, the
Its reliance on-
localization is spotty at times.
Yeah, but the reliance on puns is pretty shitty.
Yeah. Yes, but I wouldn't say that's not why I play it. That's another question is like, what is so bad it's
Right.
good? Is it like with movies that are so bad they're good? It's like, they tried really hard to make a good movie. They did not make a good movie.
They thought they succeeded.
Yeah.
How funny.
Like with the Room is like the quintessential example of that. Whereas with a game, it's more like, we're kind of talking about stuff that's like either goofy or that we like despite its bad qualities. So I guess it's a different qualifier because that's really the question of the segment is like, can games be so bad they're good? I think it's a very different kind than with movies or shows.
But back to the room real quick. Tommy Wiseau has retconned himself. I saw him in Texas at a screening of the movie, and he was basically like, "Oh yeah, I'm just very much into dark comedy. This is a comedy." Like he's claiming that this was all
He did
his
not
master
retcon
plan.
himself.
Didn't people think he was that robber, the plane hijacker from the 50s who stole a bunch of money and disappeared forever?
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
People thought
Yeah,
Don
yeah,
Draper
yeah.
was going to be this guy as well at the end of Mad Men. I
would've
won't say
been-
whether or not
that'd've
he
been cool.
is,
I mean-
because if you haven't finished Mad Men, you should.
Well, the show's
the best.
overrated.
Ooh, fight.
I think
Oh my
we
God,
could
you
move on.
turned bright red.
So so you brought up a good point. Deadly Premonition is bad, so bad it's good because of its like cinematic or lack thereof qualities, right? But something like Goat Simulator is actually bad because of its mechanics, but it makes it
Right.
fun.
But-
I think that's a better example of how a game can be bad but good.
Well, so
Gang
I
Beasts
think-
as well.
Gang Beasts too, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't want to do it. I don't want a GIF made of me. Wait, John Luke, do you have the GIF of Pete ready? No, we'll show Goat Simulator first.
I mean that definitely is the difference between like a so bad it's good movie and a so bad it's good game is like because games have gameplay and mechanics like that can be the main problem.
About that tongue.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Eric Green again also said it. You'd probably have to expect it to have bad qualities to be able to enjoy it. Like if it was just
Right.
bad out of nowhere, you'd have a much harder time. Every single person in the chat is saying that Mad Men is really good. Every
Except for
single
Nick
person in the
Margarita.
chat. Yeah. Okay.
Tastemaker extraordinaire.
Yeah, and then Gang Beast was another good example of how a game could be bad, but it's good. Just because they purposely made the mechanics not that tight, right? So you're just
Yeah, I was
flopping
gonna say
all
they
over
made
the
them
place.
loose.
Octodad almost, maybe.
No, I feel like they really tried to make that. I mean, like,
That's polished. Like
Surgeon Simulator.
I love
there we go.
Surgeon
Yeah,
Simulator.
That's probably
yeah.
actually the best one
Yeah.
that I didn't
Yeah.
think of.
Yeah.
No, it's
We keep hearing
People just
audio from
screaming
footage.
about-
that is not
I
quite
think we're
playing.
mentioning games that we didn't plan on at first, and they're struggling to find B-roll. I think if they can find Surgeon Simulator footage before we end this segment, that'd be sweet.
People are talking about Earth Defense Force.
Earth Defense Force, yeah, especially as it went on, it became really
What is happening?
repetitive.
I don't know if the production crew knows this, but we're hearing all the audio from the B-roll you're screening back
Nicholas
there.
Smith and YouTube Mad Men's not overrated.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
is.
believe you.
Yeah, Nicky Smith.
Okay. Anyway, Nicholas Smith. I'm gonna end this segment so we can get on to Nintendo Switch, which a lot of people are asking for, and then we're gonna talk about Nioh after that. I'm gonna switch over to the next segment. We're gonna switch things up. Anyway, let us know any other games that you think are so bad they're good. What is this audio in our studio right now?
Ding.
I Am Bread is a good one too. All right, I'm moving on. Let us know on Twitter. Mike Mahardy, Kelly Plaggy, Peter Brown. Hit us up with games that you think are so bad they're good. Next segment, we're finally talking about the Nintendo Switch. More specifically, will the Nintendo Switch help or hurt the 3DS? This is based on a story that ran, or like an interview that Nintendo high-ups did, which kind of contradicted stuff they originally said about the 3DS and the Switch. I have the story up. First off, I want to get your guys' thoughts. We kind of touched on this back when we talked about the Switch around its announcement. But Callie, do you think the Switch will help or hurt, or what effect will it have on 3DS?
So the best example I can come up with that would support like helping the 3DS is Pokemon Go supposedly bolstered sales of Sun and Moon. So it didn't compete directly with Sun and Moon because they were separate experiences on separate platforms that were tailor-made for each of those platforms. And so I think, I reviewed Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World, which is a port of the Wii U version, and I think that it works better on 3DS, for example. And so I think certain things work better on a completely mobile platform like the 3DS versus the Switch, which is something that Peter brought up, which is it's a console that can be mobile. It's not intended to be like a traveling handheld. And so I think for the user base that's already like really in love with their 3DS, like I carry my 3DS with me everywhere, the selling point for the Switch is like, oh, you can kind of play it up close if you feel like it, but that's not really how it's intended to be played, and all the games that are made for it are console games first and foremost. And so I don't think they'll necessarily compete with each other. I think the challenge is in marketing, and Nintendo has had that problem before with marketing, where with the Wii U, they struggled a lot to properly differentiate that from the Wii for kind of I really hate using like casual, but the more like lay person, or like, your grandma who knows what a Wii is.
I think Nintendo called like the family audience, right?
Yeah. So they really struggle to differentiate the Wii U. And so I think that's the biggest challenge, is how do they market it so that this isn't actually a handheld, it's something that can be played on the go, but it's not a replacement for a 3DS.
They're definitely tackling, I think, the problem of audience and perception really well, because all of their marketing for Switch has shown adults.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
You've not
absolutely.
seen any kids, right?
Or elderly people.
You might be right. But the point is, 3DS is geared towards kids, right? I mean, I think that is a pretty big differentiator. And the Switch looks like a very sort of like high-end device, especially in person. Like, super impressed with the build quality on that thing. A 3DS is something you can just toss around. Like, it's made to sort of be durable. It's not really like a refined piece of equipment. So the marketing, I think they might be doing a better job this time, because they are getting around some of that confusion. But yeah, like I think you pretty much covered most of the points that really need to be said. I mean, they're different products with different aims.
Yeah.
So you got hands-on with the Switch in New York about a month ago, right?
I touched it.
At the reveal.
Touched it all over.
North American reveal, at least. And you were saying this is not anywhere near like you were just saying, the portability of the 3DS. This isn't something you're going to see on the bus a lot, right?
I mean, you might see it, but it's certainly not like, I don't know about you guys, but when I play stuff like on a plane or whatever, I kind of just like keep it to myself. I don't like have the world understand that I'm playing a freaking video game and I'm, having a good time. The Switch is not huge, right? I mean, it is, the screen is the same size as the gamepad of the Wii U, and the bezel around it is not that much bigger, right? Yeah. So it's not huge, but it's also not small and compact. And I think, again, because the experiences that are going to be made for it are more console-like games, to play a thing for 15, 20 minutes on your commute, even 45 minutes, you're not going to get as much out of it as if you're really settling in to play something else. Whereas so many 3DS games are like, here's a 15-minute mission that you can get done and accomplished.
Absolutely.
Close it up, move along.
Yeah, like the dungeons in like Link Between Worlds.
Right.
There's a lot of dungeons in that game, but they're
shorter.
almost bite-sized. Same with I mean, as opposed to Twilight Princess, the dungeons could take you like 45 minutes.
Whereas I didn't like Animal Crossing City Folk very much because that was on Wii, and it just didn't make sense to drop into my town for 15 minutes. It makes so much more sense on handheld. So it's just like totally different platforms. Yeah, and
it seems like in this case, my ideal situation with the Switch would be what it seems like they're going for. I'm playing Breath of the Wild, and then I don't know, like they just showed a laundromat or something. I have to get up and go semi-close by or something, or to like a cafe across the street to get coffee, or to go to the bookstore because I'm pretty intellectual. I don't know if you guys know this. No, I'm just kidding.
I didn't think that you knew how to read, but
I'm working on it. If I screw up your chat comments, it's because I'm illiterate.
You can't read.
But then the comments here, there's an interview with Shinya Takahashi, the GM of Nintendo's Entertainment Planning and Development Division, and Yoshiaki Koizumi, ED, the Nintendo Entertainment's Planning and Development Deputy GM. They discussed the possibility of an upgraded model of Switch, potential accessories, and more. And then we could also talk about that, like how they might update Joy-Cons outside of just aesthetics. There was that concept art like a month ago or something that showed what else could be attached.
I mean, think about any little like in-game graphic or like little meter or device. If it's a reasonable size that you can interact with that and put it on a controller, like I think you were talking about the yokai spinning wheel thing.
Yeah.
Like so simple. You just sell that, you bundle it with the game. Players put that on and they're good to go. And that creates a really interesting proposition because that means, man, the Switch can transform to be so many things to so many different people. Mm-hmm. In terms of power upgrades, that's a no-brainer. I mean, this is not like a weird, crazy console. It's like a tablet, and tablets get upgraded all the time. NVIDIA is definitely working on tech that will surpass what is in Switch. The Switch stuff is outdated. So I would not be surprised if in 18 months or 2 years we saw some sort of announcement like,
This
Switch
might be
Plus.
completely off base, this comparison, but it sounded more like the way they were describing how these two executives were saying how they want to update the Switch sounded more like an Android. Like you can take it apart almost and put new Joy-Cons on it or new accessories.
It's
Well,
not
you can do
modular.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
then
they've
as opposed to like the PS4 Pro, the Xbox Scorpio, which is more of like an updated iPhone.
Well,
kind of
in the
model.
past, though, they've talked about creating tools for developers that allow them to port between devices really easily. So to me, that would say porting to things that are maybe more powerful or coming down the road.
Okay.
But yes, I think you're correct in your assumption as well that you can really tailor this thing with a lot of interesting attachments.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and then this interview was with Time, and then on GameSpot we were talking about how also of note were Koizumi's comments on where Switch stands in relation to 3DS, which is the segment we're talking about. He didn't bring up the 3DS, but he did lay out a scenario which seemingly leaves a little room for it. Unless you're going the route that we're talking about. We're hoping the Nintendo Switch will be a system that will be the constant in your gaming life, Koizumi said, whereas previously you would play certain things in your home system and certain things on your handheld. Our hope is that Nintendo Switch can be the system that bridges both of those and becomes the constant system that you're always using.
That's interesting. Especially because they said that there's not going to be any Street Pass, which is something that people love about 3DS.
Yeah.
That's the reason I carried mine around with me. Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. I always have it on in my backpack.
So Switch sounds like it's going to be, if based on that quote, it sounds like, oh, wait, no, sorry, there's more. But my hope is that with Nintendo Switch being a system that you can play at home and bring with you, you're going to be able to find more of those moments when we're able to play the games that we all enjoy and be able to play them that much more.
I mean, they're not going to back away from the promise, in an interview about this thing being portable, right? I mean, they're going to try to sell it from every angle they can. But yeah, I'd be surprised if the 3DS was phased out.
I hope not. 3DS is one of my favorite things I own.
Same.
I could see the DS line being upgraded.
Yeah.
I mean,
soonish.
yeah, I think it probably needs to.
Yeah.
I mean, especially compared to Vita, it's outdated. But once you have the Switch next to it, the resolution on these screens, the sort of graphics you're looking at, it's going to be, I think, underwhelming for a lot of people.
Yeah. We give Nintendo shit all the time for their library not being the best in recent years. You look at the 3DS, it's unreal.
Yeah,
that's
Yeah.
like one of my favorite libraries there is.
And it includes the DS library because those games are compatible.
Yeah.
I mean, and you have like classics on the virtual eShop and whatnot. But yeah, it's just weird that those quotes kind of sounded contradictory to what they originally laid out.
Yeah, I mean, bridging the gap is probably the interesting part of that quote for me because there were all those rumors about Pokemon Stars being like, oh, the third version of Sun and Moon coming to Switch, and there were graphical things in Sun and Moon that I thought like, oh, this looks extra weird on 3DS, like it belongs on something a little bit like a step up, and so I don't know if that means a replacement or like extra features that if you play something on your 3DS and then you have, this add-on on your Switch or whatever. Like, I don't know what bridging the gap means. That's the big question mark for me on whether or not that'll help or hurt the 3DS. It's what they mean by that.
They'll probably lean in more into mobile in terms of bridging the gap between hardware.
Yeah.
Honestly. Because that's what they're using for some matchmaking, some lobby stuff.
Yeah, because we still don't know a ton about.
We actually, Kotaku put up a pretty good article basically saying, we're a month away from Switch and we should really know a lot more. I mean, it really stands to question, will there be online day one? I don't know.
Have we seen the UI yet?
Barely.
Yeah.
Barely.
You didn't see any of that? Oh, wait.
No, they had debug UI at the event that I was at.
But you didn't see you were playing games, but you didn't see a home menu or anything.
Right.
Okay.
Whenever they went to that, they were hiding it and they were doing something secret. I'm serious.
Oh, seriously?
Seriously.
They had individual safes next to each station?
Well, there was a Nintendo in some other country had put out a commercial and they forgot to green screen in gameplay footage over the tablet, and we actually got a look at the debug menu.
Yes.
So I did see what it looked like eventually. But then since Nintendo has shown a screenshot or two what it actually looks like in trailers where they did cover up the green screen footage.
You probably just said something pretty insightful and helpful, but all I was imagining was these thumbprint activated safes next to each station and you just sneaking around knocking out Nintendo employees and scanning their eyeballs, not knowing that they're thumbprint scanners. And then you actually didn't
What's
get to play the
going
Switch.
on in there?
In what?
In your head?
I don't know. I just like to imagine you thinking you're Solid Snake and knocking out people and trying to scan their eyeballs on a thumbprint thing. And then you do this with the thumbprint, oh, that's all I need to do.
What?
It wouldn't be a good segment
If
for
we
us
didn't talk about knocking people out.
go off the rails the last second. We're about to pull into the station, and nope.
Yeah,
think
because
that's
that's
all.
how you drive a train.
It's got a wheel and everything. We ran out of coal. One of those dastardly villains had tied someone to the tracks and it threw it off.
Snidely Whiplash.
Yes. Who?
Snidely Whiplash?
A, did you make that up? And B, if you didn't, what's that from?
I wish I'd made it up. It's from Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Oh.
You young boy.
Is that the moose and the cow? One of them's a moose, right? Rocky's the moose.
Rocky's a squirrel.
Bullwinkle's the moose.
Yes.
Rocky's a squirrel.
I would have made that same mistake.
Yeah.
He's a flying squirrel, to be specific.
What? Those things, like sugar gliders, is that the same thing as a flying squirrel? Those things are sweet.
I don't know.
I want one in my house. They're
You
like
want to
swoops.
own one? I really want a raccoon. I want a pet raccoon.
I saw one on my run the other day, and he looked very confused at what cars were. And I did not want to go near him because I've heard they can be vicious. But I'm basing that entirely off the movie Elf. When I say I've heard they can be vicious, I'm just thinking of when he says, does someone need a hug, and then gets hugged with claws.
Yep.
Okay, let us know what you think. Are you worried at all about the Switch's impact on the 3DS? Are you hoping, like Callie said, that it would just supplement it? Are you, in general, looking for more info about the Switch like we are? A month before release, almost exactly a month, a little few shorter than 5 days, and we will know more about the console in the coming weeks. Hopefully we'll get some in the office, and we'll be able to tell you more. But in the meantime, yeah, tweet at me, Mike Mahardy, Callie Plagge, Peter Brown. Keep hitting us up in the chat. I'll do my best to keep up. There's a bunch of people chatting right now, but... yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, now we're on to the new release of the day. Miguel Concepcion is pretty close to being done with his review for Nioh.
Yes, it is in
He
the
is
final
done, but
steps
we're
of
like-
production. Yes.
Yeah, we haven't published it yet. We all played it in like varying...
Varying
Extents.
time. Yes.
I
that's a
played it
better word.
for 30 minutes.
Yeah, I played it for a few hours. And I really like this game so far. And I was not expecting to because it was actually kind of an eye-opener. Sounds like a weird tangent. I know I do those a lot, but this actually has merit. In like a month, in about a month is did I just unplug this? Do you still hear me? In about a month is the Castlevania Symphony of the Night 20th anniversary. 97 it released. That would make it. I'm doing some math right now.
Good job.
And I forget what day it is in March, but I was looking at Nioh, and it reminded me of Symphony of the Night because Nioh is clearly going for Dark Souls. They have, in previews, they've told us that's what they're doing. It's Team Ninja, who's famous for Ninja Gaiden. It's taking Ninja Gaiden and applying some of the mechanics there and some of the minor things to a Dark Souls structure in that very hard, fighting mechanics. Like you're gathering this experience that you can lose when you die. Death is a huge deal, but it's also kind of the norm. It's necessary. Well, I guess not necessary if you want to go through the game without dying, but that'd be very hard. These kind of like interlacing worlds that are, very complicated and whatnot. And there are a lot of similarities. We're going to go into it more. We're going to talk more about how Nioh compares to Bloodborne. But I was wondering, I was like, this is really fun, but like, what are the kind of questions that get raised when you're going to rip off is a strong word, but essentially take a game and almost clone it. But then I was looking at Symphony of the Night, and they essentially, Castlevania games were kind of riding off of Metroid's steam, right?
A little bit. But you could also say that about Metroid.
You say about everything.
Metroid was kind of... well, Zelda and Metroid came out not too far apart.
Yeah.
But even Zelda is very similar.
Sure.
It's just a different perspective on the world.
And, the saying goes, like, game design is all just iteration. So I was thinking, like, what other... I'd like to see maybe more franchises kind of take what makes their IPs special, like Ninja Gaiden with the very well-designed combat, and those games were difficult in their own right, and apply that to something with the structure of a Dark Souls or a Bloodborne. Like, I don't know, maybe like you could figure out a way, maybe you could take a Tom Clancy game and make it like Dark Souls.
Bringing it back.
Maybe the next Splinter Cell will be like Dark Souls. For those people who are just joining, that joke won't make sense at all, but that would be cool. A shooter with like Dark Souls structure.
I think we talked before the show about the movie Equilibrium.
Oh, Equilibrium.
That's how you pronounce it.
You pronounce the French way.
Equilibrium. Gun kata. No?
What?
Gun kata.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Graviton Clerics, Christian Bale, Tay
Thank you.
Diggs, who's from Syracuse.
Okay.
No, Rochester, some upstate New York City.
I only bring this up to hear him ramble. Because that's what happened earlier.
I
was there for that.
Cult
Have you seen
classic. If
Equilibrium?
you've seen
I've
Equilibrium,
not seen it.
It's like a movie about a society where like people aren't allowed to have feelings, and there are enforcers. And Christian Bale plays one of these people, and he stops taking his medication, so he starts having feelings.
it's also like Fahrenheit 451. Art's not allowed.
Sure.
I think not having feelings sounds cool. I like that.
Yeah, they take a medication for it.
And so
That
they,
sounds cool.
they train
I
these
wanna do
officers in
As
the
do
art
I.
of gunfighting, where you learn a position for every possible scenario that could ever happen. So you could literally walk into a room and follow this kata. So you do these moves, and no
Okay.
matter what, everyone in the room is going to die, and you'll be okay.
The famous, I think the one that comes to mind is there's a bunch of these people holding out, defending these paintings. Hold out. I forget what they're called. They go to the Narrows or whatever. That might be Batman. I'm just getting my Christian Bale stuff mixed up. But he kicks down this door, the Grammaton cleric. He kicks down the door, slides in on the door. Everybody starts shooting. The lights go out. And then all of a sudden, in the brief light flash from his gun, you hear this like whooshing sound as he's like, and I'm not exaggerating these movements. He goes behind his head.
Yeah.
He goes like under each arm. Sorry. And yeah, he's got these like double Desert Eagles that he's using. What does that have to do with Dark Souls?
You were talking
Why are we talking about Equilibrium?
you were talking about applying Dark Souls like combat with a game that is based on guns. And I'm
Sure.
saying,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
And he's
Weapon
saying-
stances, gun kata stances.
I mean,
Christian Bale.
You
in
could
this
also
game.
just do realistic like death if you're shot, or
Sure.
do
Yeah.
something like that.
Totally.
Okay.
But we also
Sure.
wanted to talk about how Nioh compares to Bloodborne, how it's better. How it's
Just forget that
good.
previous segment.
Just I feel like there's more depth here. We did. So Nioh, Eric Tay, who is close to finishing the game, he might have finished it, I think. He came in saying it's a little more like Bloodborne than Dark Souls, very much like Dark Souls structurally. But it feels a little more like Bloodborne. I think it's faster paced. Dark Souls 3 kind of took a little bit from Bloodborne in how it can be dodge oriented if you want it to. But watching Nioh footage here, it looks like a Ninja Gaiden game in terms of mechanics. But it's very difficult. But it's like this open world RPG, and open world's kind of disingenuous. I'll get to that soon. But it's also very story oriented. Much more. It's not this like kind of translucent story that Bloodborne told.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up is like in Miguel's review in progress, he talked a lot about the character, not like specific the main character, but like the charm isn't the right word either, but like the style of the game, it sets it apart from Bloodborne and Dark Souls in that it has its own unique flair. And so
Japanese folklore.
yeah, and that's the part that appeals to me the most is like the historical aspect. There's a lot of historical figures in Nioh, and so that sets it apart. I know that's kind of not what you were going for because we're talking about mechanics and
No, that's
feel,
one of the
but
things I'd written down.
yeah, that's the big thing that stood out to me because that's usually what I focus on in games. I'm super drawn to the historical Japanese setting.
Yeah, this is based on your character is pretty based on William Adams. He was the first like Western. He showed up in Japan in like the 16th century, and he was the first
He's like, "Psh, I can do what
Western
you do.
person to be
Give
a
me sword.
samurai. Yeah.
Let's do it."
And then he trained like Christian Bale did in Equilibrium.
This was like what 17th century?
16th, I believe, 1580 something,
Oh, okay.
if memory serves.
Maybe.
That would be
Sure.
16th century, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I get that mixed up all the time. But other ways, it's kind of similar to Dark Souls and Bloodborne. Weapon stances. Dark Souls 3 had the weapon arts. Bloodborne has the trick weapons that can switch between like, the hammer, the Kirk hammer, or the sword that it plunges into the sword stone. Each weapon in Nioh has 3 stances, high, low, and mid. And you can see here, if you're watching the gameplay down at the bottom right, it shows you the one on the right is just your sword is sheathed. But other than that, is high, low, and mid. High is more based on damage and attacking. Mid is kind of a defensive, and then low damage, but it makes it easier to dodge. You're not wasting as much ki, which is the stamina, Ki, which is a huge deal in this game, even more so than the stamina in Dark Souls or Bloodborne. First of all, you can see on the enemies, you could see their stamina underneath their health bar, which is big because if their stamina runs out, and if your stamina runs out, either or, you like freeze. It is much more of a penalty than in Dark Souls. It's much more punishing. You kind of have to recover quickly. But same with enemies. If they do it, obviously bosses and mini bosses will have much more ki. But these enemies, if they run out, you can go up and do these like finishing attacks. And then you also, can kind of manage yours by doing these ki pulses. If you see the stamina bar here in the gameplay, when it drains, there's this blue segment really quick. They just use the Guardian Spirit attack, which I'll get into. But you have this brief second to refill the ki you just used if you press R1 like right after you attack at the right time. which Miguel Concepcion, who played through this game, said I don't think he used it much, or he was just saying you don't have to use it, and you don't. You can get through the game without it. You can just back up, and if the enemy's not fast enough, it'll recharge. But it recharges much faster if you do this. The cool thing is, if you do it, there's certain parts where you get into like these yokai realms, and if you do that once, like perfectly, it gets out without you having to beat the enemy, or it'll like push those yokai away. The yokai being these like of Japanese
Demons,
folklore.
ghosts.
Yeah.
And then the weapon stance is coming into play when you're fighting other samurai and more skill-based enemies, because you can recognize their weapon stance and know what they're going for and know how best to counter that. If they're in a high weapon stance, you might want to go low because you know they're going for damage and slower attacks, whereas you could just dodge around and whittle away their health. And like Miguel had said numerous times in the office in his review in progress, is that there's a really cool visual style to this game, or like a visual vocabulary that lets you know what the enemies are going to do, more so than just, they're going to telegraph the attack when they start to wind up, yes, but you can also see what stance they're in, and that's going to like, affect and kind of encourage you to use a certain stance of your own and let you read these situations before the monster actually attacks.
Well, being able to see their stamina as well is super helpful.
And
Yeah.
stamina,
In the little bit I played today, it was like that automatically made the game more accessible for me because I knew I was in terms of information, on even footing with my opponent.
Okay.
Yeah, I did want to touch on accessibility because you brought that up before we started recording or shooting, filming, whatever the word is.
Live streaming.
Streaming. There we go. I know things. I think the other thing that appealed to me is because I'm very intimidated by the difficulty of Souls-like games. But Miguel said this, and then other reviewers also that I read were talking about how co-op doesn't. Like enemies don't scale when you do co-op, so you can get through a particularly tough area and like, oh, it's like a 15-minute like walk in.
Phone a friend.
Yeah, walk in the park. So
The Price is Right.
I do like that you can lean on that. Like if you're getting really frustrated, I can do a good rage quit. So I'm happy to know that that's available to me, which also makes it less intimidating to start playing. And then the tutorials at the beginning and the information that you get adds to that. Like, okay, starting this is not going to be this huge endeavor. I don't feel like I have to take a class to learn how to play this game. I don't have to study it as much. And then that comes later naturally as you're playing.
Yeah. Another thing in terms of, you mentioned co-op multiplayer-ish area. In Dark Souls, you have people that can invade your game. This has the Revenant system, so you come up on what look like bonfires in Dark Souls. They're the swords stuck in the ground, and it's red glowing thing. And when you go near it, it shows where another player died, but it also shows you what they had equipped. So if you see that they had really good equipment, obviously you want to get it, because in this game you find much more loot than in Dark Souls. You're not sticking to one weapon that you're upgrading.
I found like 4 weapons in
finding
half
the
hour I
same
played.
Yeah, you're finding the same samurai sword just with better stats. You're not finding the Kirk hammer and just upgrading that with blood gems throughout. You're finding loot a lot, and it's really cool. Risk reward. It's like the epitome of risk reward. You see that they have like really good equipment, which obviously means they're going to be harder to fight though. So it's always, if you want to get that equipment that they have, if it's worth fighting, it's almost always going to be you're outgunned, which is cool. But you don't have to summon them. That's the Revenant system, and that's like how it's a little bit different from Bloodborne and Dark Souls as well. Which I actually really like this because it's a loot-based game, so this kind of encourages you to go for the better loot by getting to these more difficult fights. Guardian spirits are a big deal. You can pick one that boosts your stats. There's also a skill tree for this Guardian spirits that you can upgrade them to upgrade your heart, body, skill, dexterity.
I love skill
stats.
trees.
Yeah, and then right
Live for
now,
it.
my Guardian spirit that I'm using is like some sort of bird dragon that swoops down and hits people, and then it buffs your weapon, and you can just hit in wider attacks and more difficult attacks. And there's like special abilities. You can upgrade your samurai abilities by getting proficiency with samurai weapons. You can upgrade ninjutsu abilities by using ninja weapons. And you go into a skill tree of their own. This game is much more, I think, in terms of the weapons and the combat, it's much more in depth than Bloodborne and Dark Souls, actually. Which those games have fantastic
Would
combat.
you say much more, or just like
More customization. Sorry.
Okay.
There's more customization involved with your skill trees. You can have the samurai abilities. You can have 3 weapon stances as opposed to the 2. You can have you get more weapons, and then at the beginning you pick like 2 weapons that you want to be proficient with. I picked the regular samurai sword and then an axe. I thought they balanced each other out well. And then for another difference, you can. Dark Souls have always kind of been these open world-ish things that are intersecting in weird ways, and then you can start warping between bonfires as the game goes on, and you discover more areas. This game, I brought it up earlier, it's like a Mario map. When you're actually going the overworld, it's places you pick, And then once you clear these areas, or maybe not clear, because it's like if you go back to a shrine, the shrines are just like bonfires in Dark Souls. Enemies will regenerate, so you can go back and farm them for Amrita if you want, which is like the souls, the upgrade currency in this game. Once you clear an area, you can go back and do a Twilight mission version, which is just
it's like a harder
it's like a
version, right?
The enemies are harder, but the loot's better. So it's encouraging you to retread if you want better loot, because say you can't even go to the vanilla version of this new area without better loot.
Have you done much of that?
No.
Because my question there is like, does that get too grindy, or is it necessary to go back and try to get better loot, or can you kind of get what you need along the way? Like that's my remaining question.
From what I've heard, it can. I don't know if it can be grindy, but it gets really hard. I would assume you would
I've heard
be
that.
farming some.
Yeah.
Grinding is always relative to the amount of effort you have to put forth, right?
Yeah.
Like, especially in an RPG, grinding for me associated with just doing rote things.
Yes.
So far, my experience is you cannot just act in a rote manner when facing enemies in this game. So,
yeah.
I
Okay.
don't know. Maybe it's satisfying, even if it is repetitive.
Yeah, like if you're doing the same thing, but you actually have to pay attention to what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
that's less. It doesn't have the negative connotations of repetition.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Philadar in the Twitch chat was calling out my Mario comparison. How else is this game like Mario?
How else?
Mm-hmm.
It stars
Trick questions.
White man in Japan. That is accurate.
Oh.
Is Mario in Japan?
Is the Mushroom
it
King of Japan?
Dinosaur World.
I don't know.
Well, he's in New York in the upcoming Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he's
anyway.
not in Japan. But I tried.
Oh, that's all right. I didn't really set anybody up for success with that one. But yes, by and large, it's kind of a low-hanging fruit to talk about how Nioh compares to Bloodborne and Dark Souls. But it is. They've been open with the fact that they're trying to do their own version of that. And I think from what I've played and from what I've heard,
Sounds like they succeeded.
yeah, it's really fun so
Absolutely.
far.
It's
And
great.
it has its hooks in me. I have the game. Well, you can't pause the game, but I have like the PlayStation menu up on my desk right now. I hope that pauses it. Otherwise, I'm dead right now.
I was always intrigued by how much it reminded me of Onimusha, just on a superficial level.
Yeah.
But then, like, the opening cutscene is almost the opening cutscene from the original Onimusha. Like, the first thing you see is a crow picking at flesh, which is like right there. Then you see an army, and So there's a lot of, if you like Onimusha as well,
Yeah.
Nice.
maybe this is your chance.
I remember
Revisit
playing
that series.
Ninja Gaiden 3. Was it the last one I played? And that was hard as shit.
Yes.
This game's hard in different ways, but
Yeah.
can kill you fast. Cool. I think that's it. Yeah, go play Nioh. Our review will be up later on some point this week. Soon-ish. Soon.
Very soon.
So keep an eye on GameSpot for our Nioh review from Miguel Concepcion. We're cutting the video review today. Try to get ready as soon as possible. And yeah, from us three here at the table, it's got us really interested, and I really like the game so far. So go check it out from Team Ninja. Cool. And then also let us know your own thoughts if you've gotten the chance to play it since yesterday it released. I'm Mike Mahardy on Twitter, or M Mahardy, or MMA Hardy. Kelly Plague, you don't know who you are. People think I'm an MMA fighter all the time on Twitter.
I'm Inky Dojiko, INKYDOJIKKO.
Or just search Kelly Plaggy if you didn't hear that. And then Peter Brown. PCB Brown? P Brown.
PC Brown.
PC Brown.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm going to change my handle soon. It's fine.
No, I like it.
That's good.
Okay. Anyway, thank you all so much for leaving your thoughts in the chat. And like I said, hit us up on Twitter if you have any more thoughts on Nioh, if you get the chance to play it.
What about Hitman? We going to talk about Hitman?
Yes. Show's not over yet.
It's not over.
I'm going to bring this back up.
It's not over.
Okay.
Nope.
Yeah, again, I mentioned this at the beginning of the show. If you were not here, we are giving away 3 Hitman Collector's Editions, one's for each platform. Xbox One, PC, PS4. This, as you can see, PS4. GameSpot earlier in the show tweeted about this. So if you don't follow us on Twitter, follow us. Retweet that exact tweet. We'll pick you later on in the week. It comes with a whole continent. No, just kidding. The statue of Agent 47 kind of putting a silencer on, cross like really casual, like full game download. The first season, it was an episodic game for those who don't know. Last year, red tie, Hitman clip, tie clip, art book, box. We will
box.
pick winners later in the week.
Your cat's
Hopefully, you
going to
win
love
them.
it.
Hitman.
We're doing more giveaways in the future.
Yeah, we do pretty much a giveaway a week now, which is good because we have a lot of stuff that gets sent here from various publishers and studios and whatnot that we want to share with people. Anyway, Yeah, so that's pretty much our show today. I don't think I'm missing anything. Like I said, go over to our GameSpot universe side of things to watch that movies that are so bad they're good that should be up now or soon. Pete's in it. Rob Handler's in it. You saw his about Leprechaun 4. Leprechaun in Space, I think it's called. We didn't have volume in here. If you want to see leprechauns go up urethras, I think that's how it works.
Yes.
I skipped anatomy when I was in high school.
Not a doctor.
I'm not a doctor or
You're
a
an
urologist.
MMA fighter.
Yeah, I'm an MMA fighter, which I've had my fair share of leprechaun fights. We will be back next week as always. Thanks so much to the people in the back. Jean-Luc on the TriCaster, Eric Tay, Richard Lee. I think those are the people back there right now. And as always, we're looking forward to next week, and we will see you then.